Hey, thank you so much for inviting me today. I appreciate it.
Hi, Essie. No problem. It's good to see you.
So good to see you.
And could you explain your niche, your target audience a little bit?
Sure, yeah. I am a renal dietitian, so I'm a dietitian specialized in kidney failure. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about um, how to navigate your health when you're first diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. And this is for those people who have been diagnosed with end-stage renal disease, and as well as just for anybody who is willing to learn a little bit more. This is something that applies to a lot of people. So I think it'll be really good information.
Great. I'm going to jump into some questions I have for you. So, for my first question, we are talking about kidney failure. How applicable is learning about things like dialysis to the general public?
That's a great question. As far as dialysis goes, it's true that most people, percentage-wise, don't end up on dialysis in their life. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that over 35 million Americans have chronic kidney disease, which is CKD, have been diagnosed with this condition. So it's a pretty serious condition. And as CKD progresses, once you get to stage 4 or 5, depending on the patient, you'll be diagnosed with end-stage renal disease, ESRD. And so a lot of patients could end up on dialysis, and this is very applicable to those patients and their loved ones, and just a lot of people in the United States in general.
Thank you for sharing all that. And for the next question, what are the steps you should take when you learn that you have end-stage renal failure or significantly worsening CKD?
Yeah, thank you for this question because there's three things that I think people should really consider. So first, I want patients to consider what is right for your treatment. There's a lot of options, which we can talk about a little bit more, but there's a lot of options, but consider what is your lifestyle, what do you need, and what is right for you with this treatment because there are a lot of treatment options, but they will change lifestyle. They can alter it more or less depending on what you choose. The second thing that I think is really important to remember is to make a plan for how to succeed in your care plan each week. And the attitude is a game changer with this. So having a good attitude, making a plan, and then having a good attitude about it is a huge game changer of helping people stick to their plan. And then asking for help from your support network to stay on track. Because if people are sticking to their plan and are keeping their health as optimal as possible, it's important to remember that it can add years back onto these patients' lives because this is a serious condition. And so the difference of years could be these decisions that we make.
Got it. Having support and having a good attitude are essential. And what treatment options are out there for most patients with this condition?
So the two most common ones when a patient is told they need dialysis, with end-stage renal disease, if it means your kidneys are no longer filtering the fluid in your body, or they're filtering it a little bit, right? A teeny, teeny, tiny bit. But for the most part, it means there's pretty much no kidney activity. And so that means you'll need some form of dialysis. Something is going to need to filter your blood, or eventually you'll pass away because there's just nothing, your body can get overloaded, right? So with dialysis, there's peritoneal dialysis is what it's called, and hemodialysis. Now, peritoneal dialysis is typically performed at home, and the patient is responsible for their own treatment, or they need to have a caregiver come help them manage it. But it's very flexible because they can do it at home. But they do have to have some skill and really be on top of it because, again, this is a life-threatening condition. Whereas hemodialysis, you do it in center, so they have to go to a location, and it's typically 3 days a week for a couple hours each day. Like around three is pretty common, 3 hours each day. And patients, it's less flexible because they have to go there on certain days at certain times, but it's actually not a bad option if patients don't want to have to manage it at home or would have a hard time with that. So those are the two main options, and they kind of change how the patient will manage this. And there's a lot to consider that goes into these two things.
Got it. Thank you. So the two main types are peritoneal and hemodialysis.
Correct.
Cool. And can you explain what those options would look like and how it will change the lifestyle of the person affected?
Yeah, so the biggest change will be like either way, you're going to need to have your blood filtered, and it's going to be a time commitment, right? What's nice about peritoneal dialysis, like I said, is it's at home. And so these patients get to in their own homes and with their own schedule a little bit. They still have to follow some sort of scheduling things, but typically they do it once a day for less time than if they were in office only 3 times a week. But they can do it when makes sense for them and they can travel and they can bring their stuff with them. So there are more flexible options, but again, like they really do have to plan around it. And at home, there's going to need to be some skill in being able to hook themselves up to this machine and knowing how to do it and accountability with the timeline. Whereas for in center, it's harder for these people to travel and it's harder for them to, sometimes it's a little harder for job schedules too, depending on when their dialysis is scheduled for, because they have to go to in-center dialysis 3 times a week typically for multiple hours. So it can be worked around a job and travel can be worked around a little bit if there's a dialysis center there, but it is much less flexible. So these are just things you need to consider, as well as dietary changes. These will change what these people can eat because how your blood is filtered can affect quite a bit in your life and for your health.
That's interesting. Thank you. Both sound time consuming, but that's okay. It's good for their health. And what is the main tip for someone who has just been diagnosed with ESRD?
My main tip would probably be to ask for support from your network. Now, while some people have more family close by, some people don't. Everybody can have like a medical team that can work with them. They can have, there's lots of different, options. And also, a lot of people go through this. People don't realize that they're really not going through this alone. So there's a lot of advice out there, and there's a lot of ideas on things that people can do. As well as if they're doing in-center, a place like DaVita is a really common company that does this sort of thing. There's a whole care team that will work with them and they will intentionally like make care plans and have ideas for this sort of thing.
Awesome. Thank you. What kind of things will help people stay on track with their kidney care plan?
I think kidney patients are often given a plan, right? Of here's what you need to eat, or here's when you need to be doing dialysis, things like that. They have to make it their own. So owning this plan and deciding this is how I'm going to make this work for my lifestyle, and then putting in that effort to own it is how it becomes a part of their life. I've known so many patients who were so proactive about it, and their labs really were just stayed so consistent, which can really put so much less strain on your body, so much less strain on the dialysis, and can really add a lot of time to your life long term because it's avoiding a lot of unnecessary damage or stress on the body.
Got it. Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel the public should know about this condition or how to manage it?
I just want the public to know that this is a big medical condition, but those suffering with it, you're not alone. You're not alone. And there's so many resources out there, as well as there's so many people that don't know about it that I feel like could really be such a support. So there really is so much that we can do to support those who have chronic kidney disease and encourage them to follow their care plans so that their disease progresses slower or doesn't progress. And I just think it's so important that like all is not lost, and there's so much that you can do with on dialysis or with this condition that you can still live such an amazing life. And it just takes some support, a good attitude, and a good plan of what can really work for you.
Thank you, Essie, for sharing. I feel a lot more well-versed on kidney failure now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Good luck with everything.
Of course. Have a great day.
Bye.